Hello, I'm Marion. Welcome to Marion's World and the beginning of the last bird that is going to finish the bird quilt that I started as the first project that I had when I started my channel. So the channel started in June last year, and by mid-July I was stitching the blackbird on what was going to be a bird book. It ended up being a quilt, and here is the final stitching and the hanging up of the quilt. For today's embroidery, I'm starting with a piece of vintage tablecloth, and I've just marked out my page with a bit of thread just so I know what I'm working with. I'm probably going to be collaging this with some of these wool scraps. I recently brought these back in a big bag from Scotland, and I've sorted out some colours that I think will be good. And for the embroidery, it's probably going to be crewel wool, because that's what I'm working with lately, and I thought it would be nice. I'm actually going to use my Inktense, and I'm going to get my hoop in the stand and start to paint up the background, and then I'll sort my fabrics out. So to start off, I'm going to just wet my fabric a bit, because I find this is the easiest way of painting the Inktense onto fabric and getting a really smooth transition of colour. I'm just going to use my big brush here, and I've just got normal just water in my jar. And I'm going to start off with quite a bright blue down at the bottom here. Now, I was inspired actually by a video that I saw when I was doing my research for the pigeon, because I'd already decided that that's what was going to be my last bird. It's so long since I worked on this bird quilt, and I hadn't realised quite how long ago it had been, but it just got put to one side. And once I'd got the birds all quilted together, I took it onwards from the last video that there was about it, and it was all quilted, and then I was trying to think of what title I would give it, because I had one space left over. And after looking at it for a few weeks, I all of a sudden realised I didn't want to have a title on it. I just wanted to have another bird. And so then it was, what bird would I have on it? I just sort of kept thinking, well, I've done this bird, I've done lots of the birds already that I see in my garden. And I was thinking, I've got to be something else I see in my garden, and of course they were mainly done already. And then for a few days in a row, a blooming pigeon came and was actually sitting at the top of the bird feeder. And the colours were so bonny, and I know it looked ungainly on my bird feeders, the poor pigeon sitting there. And they started to try and build a nest in the honeysuckle over the gate, and I kept disturbing them every time I went out, you know, through the gate, but that was nothing I could do about it really. But they were just there, the pair of them, in the front garden. And all of a sudden I was going, well, of course, I need to do a pigeon. So I think they're really beautiful. And while I was researching my picture that I could use to do my embroidery from, I came across the video on Instagram of this gentleman who was painting a pigeon. Not only painting a beautiful pigeon, but he was telling you about them as well. And so I messaged him and said, could I use your picture as inspiration for my embroidery? And it's still been a few weeks since that, but here I am actually starting it. So I'm using his picture as an inspiration, and I will link you to his beautiful video about them, so you can see that as well. But here we are, I've got my background nicely painted in. I'm really happy with that. And I've got a pigeon picture that I have printed out. I have drawn a paper pattern, and I'm using that to cut out some pieces. So the first is, I've got this lovely grey that's just come from my bag of scraps, and I've cut the main body out. It's not quite dark enough, but I'm just going to start stitching, and between my photograph and the lovely video picture, I'm just going to start and lay in some stitches, because you just have to start somewhere. So I know the end of the tail should be black. I've actually got, this is sort of like a charcoal brown vintage Penelope wool, and I've got a feeling I'm going to do a little bit of wool and a little bit of thread as well, because the neck feathers are such a beautiful colour that I just feel that I'll try and see if I've got any suitable either cottons or silks to get that sparkle, if I can. I might not be able to, but I can only try. So I definitely need some good dark stitches here, and I'm going to lay them in quite long, because these are long feathers, and so I don't want it to look too bitty. I'm just going to use some good long stitches here to darken the end of the tail. I'm going to bring those stitches up into the bottom of the body. So I just need to get all the pieces in the right place. I've gone ahead and layered everything up, because I just had to get a sense of where all the bits had to be, and so they're all sort of cut out for the wing and everything. And I've got a double strand of this very vintage sort of 1920s 30s crewel wool. It's extremely fine, and so I'm using a double length in the needle, because otherwise it'll disappear entirely. And I'm going to carry on stitching these things down, because they're not actually stitched in yet, but as long as I keep an eye on my reference photo, I can make my tacking stitches go where I want them to go, and so they'll all help the embroidery in the end. So I'm just going to start and put in, this is a good, actually a very good colour to go with this very pale wool. Always thinking about the way the feathers are lying. That's just a bit of the wing. The way the feathers are lying, so I want my stitches to follow the way of the feathers. So putting them in a way that the feathers won't lie in real life, because then the whole thing won't look right at all. There, you can see I've got this in 2 pieces. I didn't even have enough to cut one piece out, so I'm just patchworking it together. Right, I think that's about where I want the wing to be. And I'll just start putting some straight stitches in here. This very mottled pattern on the top of the wing that I'm going to hope to try and capture. I'm going to come across, because I know I'm catching all of the underneath pieces at the same time. When I've got everything tucked in, I'll come back with the first bit of proper embroidery, rather than just the tucking stitches. They're mostly tucked down. I've put some brown on the wings here, and I've just got some pink thrifted crewel wool in my needle, and I'm going to lighten this quite dark mulberry sort of a chest with some pink stitches. And I have actually had a look, and I've got a nice, quite nice pink stranded cotton there, but I've also got some purple silk, and I think I might combine both of them to make, sort of try and get the iridescence on the breast. But at the moment I'm just going to stitch up and down, going to stitch into the fringe of this green here where I need to, and just get the bit of pinkness going here rather than it being quite so dark. I may need to overstitch some of this with a grey. I'm nearly out of this pink, so I'll change colour. I do like to change colour every time I need to reload my needle. I just like to do all the colours together in a way. I feel that the whole embroidery comes together in a better way if I work on the whole thing as a whole rather than just saying you just have to do this colour or this piece. I sort of spot about all over the place. And I will get some of this pink. It's quite nice actually. I think what I'll do, I don't think there's any point in me having just one strand of this, so I'm going to have 2 strands, but I will pull them out individually and then I'll recombine. I'm using my same crewel needle, a long eye and a sharp point. This linen's really nice to stitch, and of course the wool is easy to stitch too. So I'm going to come back through the same area with this brighter pink, and I'm just going to layer it through, and when I also get the silk on, I'm hoping that's going to show a bit of iridescence. I quite like the look of pigeons. I know lots of people call them tree rats and all sorts, but I don't think it's their fault. Which is why the video just really appealed to me when I saw it. I've worked down onto the grey here, and I will be working some darker grey up onto the pink as well. I haven't quite got the right colour for the green neck, but I'm going to use this, which is sort of an aqua greeny blue, which is crewel, thrifted crewel wool. And then I've also got this, which is sort of like a kingfisher colour, but I'm hoping that between them they will show what I'm hoping to show. So I'll do some neckline now. Might just be a bit more pink up here at the neck. When I look on a photograph of a feral pigeon, they're sort of, the green is at the base of the neck and then the pink comes up towards the head, so I think I'll probably put a bit of that bright pink on here. Or the purple, maybe the purpley silk might work. I'll come back to you when I'm ready to put the little iridescent piece in to see if it works. Now I have been through the green with the lovely blue, kingfisher blue, and then I found this, which is vintage machine thread, and I've put that through as well, and I think that's definitely got the colour. And for the pink, I found some of this old Silco machine twist silk substitute. I thought it was a really good colour, and I've used that double. And I'm at the moment using this purple silk. Again, I've got it double in my needle, but I'm not sure that you're going to see it going in because it is still quite fine. And I can see the sparkle that it's bringing, but I'm not sure it's going to show up on the camera. But I'm going to take it right the way through here, just adding those highlights, and it is sparkling through. As I say, it's not quite the colour I would have wanted, but I'm not about to buy thread, so I have to either use what I've got or not use it. So I'm making do. and hopefully I can get the effect I want by just being a bit creative with the supplies I've got. The purple is just giving it a bit of sparkle and a bit of iridescence. So I'll just continue putting it through, and then the next bit I do will be the top of the wings. Yeah, I'm pleased I doubled up the thread here, because I worked with this thread as a single when I did the starling portrait, and that was a heck of a lot of work. I used a single thread the whole way through, but because I'm doing this on top of wool, it just wouldn't have been seen at all. It would have just sunk too far in. As it is, I'm doing quite long stitches because mostly they disappear into the wool. But it is definitely giving that sparkle, which is really nice. I have no vintage black crewel wool, but I do have some brand new Eco Vita, and so this is going to be my first bit getting used. I'm going to use this black. Oh my goodness, my first piece is coming off. And I think I'm probably just going to split stitch around. I've already got a bit of brown in here, and it's a dark pink base that of wool. This is sort of like a beige pink. But I'll just take some black through here. This is really nice pulling through. I think it's a bit less hairy than the normal crewel wool that I've got. It's smoother, I think. That's what it feels like to me. So this whole triangle here is getting filled in with black. I've got some black lines laid in on this part of the upper wing, and I actually need to lay some sort of pale grey in, and on the other video as well, it's like it's all silvery grey, and the problem is I actually don't have any silvery grey. I've got that, which doesn't seem much different from this. But I have this very old and a bit dirty actually, very vintage blue, pale blue. And so I thought I'd use that because it's going to be more of the contrast that I need, whereas the other grey's too near it. So I've actually put 2 strands of it in my needle, and I'm going to do the pale blue. So I'm just going to prove that you don't actually need even the correct colour. It depends what you're putting it with, because colours can look different dependent on what they're next to or what they're on top of. And so I'm hoping this pale blue is going to give me the same effect as if I had the silver grey. Now I might be rushing this through in the edit and sort of cutting some pieces out, and that's because I'm so near to completing the bird quilt that I'd like to get that all done into the same video if I can. So if I just do the bird embroidery, it means I have to come back with another thing in a few weeks' time, and I'm so near to finishing it. I'd just like to get it all done on this video if possible. So it may be that the bird just gets a little bit of, it's not being rushed, as I'll be spending the same amount of time on it, but I'll just show you what I'm actually doing, and then I might just be sort of skipping on to the next bit in the video, just so I'd like to be able to show you the finished thing. And then there's quite a bit of black and sort of grey on this bit, so I think I'll do that off camera, and I'll come back when I'm doing the face, because that's always the lovely bit where you get to see the whole little bird come to life. I put the eyes on and things like that, so that's what I think I'll do. I've taken the pigeon on a little way, as you can see. I've put extra little purple, the purple silk through here a bit. I don't know whether you'll pick that up. Shaded along under here, and I've actually done his feet. And I struggle with birds' legs usually, but I've used this soft cotton, which is quite a thick cotton, and I actually sort of laid some threads over and then wrapped them. As you can see, they're not attached. And then after I'd wrapped them, I've actually painted them with a bit of Inktense, and I've painted the claws as well, and then just put a bit of a ground for him to walk on, because he looked like he was floating in midair. So I'm coming back just to do the head and get his face on and everything, and I've cut out a beak, which I think is going to go about there, and all of a sudden I put that beak on and you can see his face starting to come. But before I do any of that, I'm going to take this piece of crewel wool, which is a bit of an off-white, and the tops of their beaks have like this bony sort of knobbly bit, and I thought I could do that with some French knots. And so I'm going to put his beak where I think it needs to be, which is about there, and hold it in, come up through it, and I'm going to do some just one wrap French knots. They don't have to be too big, but I'm hoping they're going to give the texture that I need it to be. And then it's a possibility that I'll paint the beak, because I want it to keep smooth. In. Now they look as if they're not going to stand out too much, but I've got some shading to do on the face, which I've got the grey ready for, and the orange is actually for the eyes. Now the orange is just out of my tangle. I just happen to have the right bit, or the right colour, and the grey is just the grey crewel wool. And so hopefully going to give him a bit of personality. Oops, put your beak down. Be lovely just to get this quilt finished. I do need to find wall space for it. I think it is going to come into my sewing room. Bit of a tidy up and a change round, I think. I'll leave the yarn up, so I'd rather not cut it off and then realise I need an extra one somewhere. So I'm going to leave this yarn out of on the front here, just so it's out of my way. If it's underneath, I'll get it caught. And I'm going to start and put the shading in so that I can place the eye, because at the minute that black spot there is just where I've drawn it with a pencil, in the hopes that it's in the right place. So when the embroidery's finished, I still have to sew it onto the actual quilt, so pull it so hard. And sort of got this sideways looking on really, or front ways looking on. It's not like I'm seeing a side view, so eye looks a little triangular like. I'm just really splitting each stitch as I'm doing it. I'm not really bothering how they're lying, it's just a matter of filling in the shape as I see it on the photo. I think one more stitch will do this one. And I'm going to leave that one there. I'm going to get black thread So I've just got my black crewel. Could have done it with stranded cotton, I suppose. I'm just going to outline the eye, just backstitch around it. It's sort of a side view, so I need to make that look as if the eye, I can't see the eye full on, so I'm going to do this piece here and then put the pupil in. I'll do the pupil just by going up and down. It's far too tiny for a French knot out of this, so I'll just go up and straight back down. And then just leave a little bit there, like that. I think I need to use the dark grey to just give more shading here. So I think I'm going to paint this in, tack the beak down, and I'll show you when it's finished, because I need to be straight on top of it. The camera is right in my way of where I want to look. So I'm going to just finish this here for the moment and then come back to you with the actual finish of what he looks like. Now here's my finished pigeon, and I am really pleased with it. I've taken it out of the hoop, I've ironed the edges back, and I've got a piece of my scraps of wadding, and I'm going to just put it into the back of here. Just move the bits out the way. Put it into the back, and I was a bit short on it, so I'm just going to, got another little bit here to just go in there, and I'll fold all this back, and I'm now going to slip stitch it onto my quilt. Now I don't need to show you that bit because it's on my other video, the last one I posted about making my bird quilt. I'm showing all of the putting together, and so I'm going to go away and slip stitch this now, and then work out how I'm going to add it onto the wall. But I'm really pleased with them, with his little, it's very colourful. I'm putting my final stitches into the quilt hanging sleeve along the back of my quilt, and I can't believe I'm this near to finishing it really. You can see I've quilted it through already. And I did just go with the purple, and I'll link you to my last post of this where I was actually trying to, you know, get it along finished, and it's quite a while ago since I did that video. Anyway, today I wanted to put the quilt hanging sleeve on, and I didn't have enough of this purple to make one, and so I was reaching around and I found this lovely bit of purple ribbon, and I thought maybe it was just good enough, so I'm using that. I found a piece of batten. This is actually out of my doll's house stuff. It's what I cut up to make little furniture, but I have enough of it, and so it fits inside. And what I've done is I've just hem stitched along the top edge. It's about 1 centimetre down from the top of my quilt, and then as I'm sewing the bottom end in, I'm just pulling it back to make room for the batten to go through, because I don't want it to distort the front of my quilt. And if I put it flat like that, I feel it'll do some distortion on the front. So I'm just pulling the edge back in as I'm slip stitching along. And what that means is when you see it at the end, you'll see that it's got a puffiness, and all I'm doing is making room for that batten to go into the quilt, into the sleeve. You can see I am making quite long slip stitches, but every time my thumb moves along, it's just pulling the ribbon in. The beauty of using the ribbon too is that I didn't need to turn any edges. So I think that's quite, I've never used a ribbon before for a quilt sleeve, a hanging sleeve, but it seems to be working nicely. And it's something I had. So there's not one piece of anything on here that I have had to buy. All of the birds were stitched using things that were here, mostly thrifted stuff. Everything I've used has been something I already had. It feels quite momentous to be coming to the end of it actually. I just need to put my bow and arrow on somewhere, and then I do have a bit of an idea for the display of it, or extra to the quilt hanging sleeve. So I'm just going to overcast that off. I've pinked the edges of the ribbon because I didn't want to turn them under and have that thick edge. So I've just pinked them to stop them fraying. Oh my goodness, I'm about finished. I can't believe it. So if you can see there, you can see that there's a good pinch of ribbon there, so that when I put this in, I haven't cut this to length yet, but let's have a go. I can put it in here. So it still needs cutting to length, but I can slide this right the way along. Well, that'll look just perfect. So I'm off to do the rest of my hanging part, and then I'm back with a bit of, I don't know, experiment. I've got my stick that I collected when I was down at the beach, and I think I remember saying in the video, oh, I know exactly what I want that for. Well, it was to hang up the bird quilt. I've got some wire that was just in the shed, and I've got my bits of scrap wadding, and I'm going to attempt to make a branch with some leaves to hang up the quilt on. So I'm trying not to use any glue. I don't like to have to use glue among my sewing. So what I've done is I have just tightly wrapped it, and I keep putting stitches on and then wrapping with the thread, and it's working well so far. Just wrap round, and then I'm going to take a few stitches, and I'll just leave my needle there. This is just an underlayer, so I don't have to be too wonderful about it. And I'm just going to wrap this wadding, because I've just got pieces left. It's not really, it's only big enough for small things. So I think if I just wrap this tightly round, it'll make me a base. Once I've got a base, I can do other things. And then I'll have to make some leaves. The idea is there, but let's just hope I can do it. Now I've committed to doing it on the camera, as I could actually just hang my quilt now. The quilt sleeves on, I've cut the batten, I've sandpapered the batten, that's all ready. I just need to make a space on the wall to put it. This is all just extra now. Let's just hope. Keep your fingers crossed for me. Well, there's exciting developments. I've covered my bit of original wire with the quilt wadding, and I've been raiding everywhere I could find to find wires, and I've got bits of soft wire, I've got cake decorating wires that I've had for years that I'm twisting together, anything I can find. And while I was looking around, I'll put my needle down, I spotted this wool that I just brought back from Scotland in the big bag of scraps from the charity shop, and so that's just perfect bark. Look at it, it's just going to be the most perfect thing. So I've collected every bit of suitable wool from the scrap bag. So I've got greens in various shades, and I've got this brown, and then this very dark green. I've got all sorts. So now I'm on a crafting, I'm just frantic, just to get it done. I can't, my hands are all just, I've got to do it. So I'm in full flow at the moment. So when you see it, I hope it turns out as nice as I'm hoping it is in my head, because at the minute I'm in that exciting rush of, oh my goodness, you're doing something. So I'm about to start covering this piece in the brown wool from the charity shop. Get a good start, and then once you've got a base you can go forward. That's it. Just keep going, and every so often I'll do some wrapping with the thread and a few stitches. Bit of wrapping with the brown thread and finish off with some stitches to secure it. So I need to do that over the whole thing. Oh, my needles come out. Okay, well, you know what I'm doing. I'm wrapping with wool, wrapping with thread, and then securing it. And I'm going to cover my whole little piece like this. So once I've got this all stitched together, I can put some leaves on then. Okay, that's nice and tight. That's a good start. I've been getting on with leaves, and I've cut some ivy leaf shapes out of the different bits of wool that I'll have, you know, all the scraps, and then I've coated them in some PVA so that when they dry I can sort of manipulate them into a shape. So they're still wet at the moment, but in the meantime there's this lovely bit of green here which is really nice, and I've sort of shredded it up a bit because I thought it would look nice as moss. And I think if I just shred some up, yeah, like even with the brown still in it, it's really nice. You can just sort of do that, shred it. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to shred that a bit and then put that on my branch. Yeah, oh, it's lovely, very textural. So I'm going to get that on now, and then hair dry my leaves, and then hopefully I'll be able to put the whole thing together. Well, my bird quilt's finished and is hanging on the wall, and I'm over the moon with not only the whole bird quilt, the fact that I did it all. I started it in July last year, and here it is. I'll zoom you out so you can see how I've hung it up. There it is. My stick and my leaves and the ivy vine all look lovely. I'm over the moon. I'll take you in for a closer look. The blackbird was my very first one. And then the nest. I so love doing that nest. And then they're right next to the pigeon, which is my most recent one. And I love doing every single one. So not only is this all hand stitched and hand quilted, but there's not a new piece of fabric or thread anywhere on it. It's all stuff I've already had, thrifted cottons, old sheet, and then topped off with a piece of driftwood from the beach and some old wire out of the shed, and the wool that I just got in Scotland the other week that just ended up being perfect to craft an ivy branch and leaves out of. I absolutely love it. I've had to clear my bunting off the wall because it was in the way. So I'm actually redoing my craft room. It's going up on another wall. And I'll give you a sewing room tour when I'm finished. Oh, it's lovely. Well, I really hope that you enjoyed seeing the finish of the birds' embroideries. I started off, I was always calling them the bird book, and then I had a vote on the channel and everybody wanted it to be a wall hanging, and it seems to be a theme that I just put things out and then I do what you tell me to do. So people thought it was going to be nicer as a wall hanging, so I've gone ahead and made it into a wall hanging, and it has been almost complete for quite a long while, and it was just waiting for me to decide on the title that was going to go at the top middle. And once I decided I didn't want a title, I was just waiting for the opportunity to stitch another bird. And it's been waiting for that pigeon for quite a while. I knew it was what I was going to do, I just hadn't got around to having the time to do it. So at long last, the bird quilt is finished. I'm over the moon with it. I'm looking at it on the camera at the minute because I can see it in the background. And I'm so pleased. I've had to make room for it on the wall, because there's nowhere in my sitting room that it could possibly go, so it's in here, and the whole room's having a bit of a tidy round. in fact you'll see there that the bunting that was on here is actually not properly hung up yet. It's hanging on the other wall, just waiting for me to get the ladders into the corner to hang it up. And so the whole room's having a bit of a sort out, and so when I've done that, I'll do a bit of a sewing room reveal again. It's not going to look hugely different, but there are some changes, and I've got rid of some stuff, and there's new stuff come in. So we'll have a bit of a talk round of what's here and how I get on with things. So I don't know when that'll come up, but it'll not be till I've tidied up, because there is stuff absolutely everywhere at the moment. But anyway, thank you for watching, and I hope you'll just give me the like or a subscribe, or I'm going to put the birds embroideries playlist in at the end of this video. So if you want to see how I started and some of the other birds and how they were done, please click onto that. It'll take you straight to the playlist where all of the bird embroideries are all grouped together. So I hope you enjoy watching them. Thanks again, and I'll see you next time you come and visit me. Bye everyone, and thanks so much for all your support. Picking the winner again. I'll paste in my YouTube URL from the thrifting video. Don't include replies, don't include duplicates. Saved anything? No. And then continue, and it will upload all of the comments up to date. Now I'm picking this on Tuesday, so that only the people who've already commented on that video are included in the draw. Oh, there we go. And now I just have to pick a winner. And the winner is Chrissy Berry 5339. Waking too early with a headache, your video cheered me up. What lovely finds. Looking forward to seeing what you make with all your goodies. Well, there you are, Chrissy. You are the winner of the sewing basket. You need to get in touch with me and send me your address or email or something like that. You can contact me through Instagram or an email through the shop to get in touch with me. So I look forward to hearing from you.